Hello, students and faculty of Northpoint. May God bless you and keep you healthy and safe and sane in this crazy time. My name is Pete Kramer. I'm the lead pastor of Faith Assembly in Plant City, Florida. And Florida is a long way from Massachusetts. It almost feels like it's the end of the earth, but I think that gives us good perspective on the story of Jonah. So for just a few minutes, let's talk about Jonah. Jonah is this amazing experience in the Old Testament of a man who hears God's voice and responds to God's voice by going completely the opposite direction to where God had asked him to go. Look at Jonah chapter 1 in verse 2. Get up and go to the great city of Nineveh. This is the Lord speaking. And announce my judgment against it because I've seen how wicked its people are. But Jonah got up and went in the opposite direction to get away from the Lord. He went down to the port of Joppa, where he found a ship leaving for Tarshish. He bought a ticket and he went on board, hoping to escape the Lord. Isn't that amazing? I mean, imagine, if you will, you're hearing directly from the voice of God's mouth. And God asks you to do something that you just don't want to do. How do you react? Jonah hears from God and he gets up and he goes the opposite direction to get away from the voice of God, to escape God's call on his life. And he goes the opposite direction. And after he goes the opposite direction, everything for him goes down. Think about it. He went down to the port. He went down to the ship. In the ship, he went down into the bottom of the ship. And eventually, you know the story, that he gets swallowed by the fish and he goes down into the bottom of the sea. Down, down, down. When you run the opposite direction from the calling of God, don't be surprised when everything kind of goes down from that point. But the story of Jonah isn't about how disobedience causes your life to go down. It's about how God's grace will lift you up. It's about how God's grace will lift you up. Think about this in Jonah chapter 1, verse 4. It's a little bit of a different way to think, but the Lord hurled a powerful wind over the sea, causing a violent storm that threatened to break the ship apart. Fearing for their lives, the desperate sailors shouted to their gods for help, and they threw cargo overboard to lighten the ship. And all this time, Jonah was sound asleep in the bottom of the ship. See, this storm on the sea was not their fault. They were caught up in Jonah's storm of disobedience and running in the opposite direction. And this storm on the sea is not judgment, it's God's attention getter. And this fish, ultimately, that's going to swallow him up is God's vehicle of choice to get him where he wanted him to go in the first place. Does the Lord have your attention? Does the Lord have your attention for the calling he's asked you to do? What's your reaction to the voice of the Lord and what he's asked you to do? Are you creating a storm because of your disobedience that other people are caught in right now? God is going to get you to your calling if you'll willingly submit to his Spirit. Getting to where God wants you to go, it may look strange. It may feel strange. It may feel odd. It may feel completely different. In Jonah's case, it smelled strange. I mean, he's in the belly of a whale for a while. But the smell of fish isn't punishment. It's the smell of God's grace. It's the smell of God's grace. So let us not be like a Jonah who can clearly and unmistakably hear the voice of God, but we're deaf to the cries of the hopeless who need help around us. Let us wake up and be excited by the fact that God would call our name, that God would speak to us, that we get to hear from God. Let's be excited about that. And maybe let's let this calling from God scare us and excite us just a little bit. Excite us and scare us just a little bit. Run towards God's calling. Don't run away from it. Don't run in the opposite direction. Listen for the voice of Jesus within you while you tune into the cries of the hopeless around you. God bless you, my friends. Go and be salt and light.